Hello my beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm very excited to share with you my summer eyeshadow palette wardrobe. Living in sunny Florida means that our summer extends well into fall season, and I'm very excited to show you the eyeshadow palettes that fit both summer and going into the fall. I went through my entire eyeshadow palette collection and selected eyeshadow palettes. Some of them are newer additions to my stash and some of them have been in my collection for a while and they are inspiring to me, so I thought I would pull them out for this vibrant season. Before we dive in, I would love to welcome new visitors and viewers to my channel. Hello, my name is Eve and I love all things beauty. Here on my channel, I share about beauty and lifestyle. I upload new videos every week. If you enjoyed this video, I would love you to give this a big thumb up and I would love you to subscribe to my channel if you're not yet a subscriber. And if you're already a subscriber of my channel, welcome back. So good to have you here. And now without further ado, let's dive into my summer eyeshadow palette wardrobe. As I mentioned, I went through my entire collection and I just pulled the palettes that inspired me by their color stories. If you've been on my channel a little bit, you already know that I do love my warm tone neutrals. I generally love neutral eyeshadows, and I do like a little bit of color as well when it comes to warm seasons. So today's video is not a typical video of what you've seen from me in the previous seasons. I've done this seasonal eyeshadow palette videos for the past several years. I will have some of them linked for you in the description box so you can catch up on that and see what I recommended to you in the previous season. This video is a little bit different because this year I am more on no buy and very selective what I'm adding to my collection. So that on its own has been inspiring for me to dig through my already existing collection and just love the products that I already have. So that kind of gave me inspiration to pick more palettes than I normally would. I would probably stick to about like 10 to 15 palettes at most. Today, I think I have maybe a little bit more. I honestly have not counted. Yes, I will start from the palettes that are somewhat new to my collection and they fit perfectly into this season. So I thought I would keep them around and continue using them and continue making looks with them. So the first palette that I am keeping in my summer eyeshadow palette wardrobe is this Island Wild Atlantic Way from NOMAD Cosmetics. I do like that it gives a little bit of versatility with the warm neutrals and some interesting like transitional shades like this celery, like very light celery shade, and then this light mustard. This palette was sent to me during the spring when I was absent, so I didn't really have a chance like right away to experiment with this palette or play around with this, so I want to keep it around. The next palette that I am also keeping around for this season is another palette from Nomad. This is again their latest launch. It's called Keys Beachy and Peachy. This is a quite colorful palette inspired by Florida Keys, and I was very excited about this palette when the brand announced it because I live in Florida and it just seemed like I could relate to the color story. This is definitely quite colorful palette, but I do enjoy the colors that are here. They are quite unique to my collection to what other colorful shades I already have in my collection, and some of these peachy tones are super beautiful, and I enjoy yellows in summer as well. This section right here is just extra beautiful, so I definitely want to continue playing with this palette. So the next palette is the palette that just recently joined my collection, to be exact last week. This is Neutrals from Cosmic Brushes. This is my first Cosmic Brushes eyeshadow palette. I was waiting for a good moment to try the brand's formula because I've heard nothing but the greatest things about this. I don't think this is necessarily summer, but this is a palette that pretty versatile in my opinion throughout the year if you're a neutrals lover. There are definitely some warmer tones here that are perfect for warmer seasons, but this row right here has a little bit more of like the grungy, more wintry moment in my opinion to my makeup aesthetics, what I like to wear. But this is just something that is new to me. I did not have a dedicated video on this palette when it was launched because I just got slammed at work, to be honest with you, and I did not have time to film a dedicated video on it, but I do have more content on my Instagram posts and reels and some tutorials, and I will continue doing so because this palette is just still in this testing period right now in my collection. So if you're not yet following me on my Instagram, I invite you to do so. I don't have my full thoughts on this palette yet because it's considerably new and I haven't tested all the shades yet. I created so far 4 looks with this, and I will be giving you my full thoughts, my full review at the end of July or beginning of August when I rank rank my monthly eyeshadow palettes. The look that I'm wearing today is made with this palette. I basically mixed a few of these neutral shades, and this shade is all over my lid, and I have this shade in my inner corner. The next palette that I would love to keep around is also something that's very, very brand new. It was just delivered to me a few days ago, and I was already on it. You bet. There's some content that I already have on my Instagram at this point when I'm filming this video. The first palette that I have from Gourmand Girls, this is their most recent launch, Peach Perfect. This packaging is so cute. When I saw the peaches, like this design with like peaches and green elements here, I said, yep, this is gonna be my first palette from Gourmand Girls. Then Christina from Gourmand Girls reached out to me, and here it is. Here's the palette. I am very grateful that this palette was sent to me. Again, I will keep all my thoughts about the formula, about the shades for my monthly ranking video, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe here on my channel if you would like to hear my thoughts. But this is a palette that I've already created a few looks with. This is such a beautiful color story, and it's definitely perfectly fitting into the summer season. And this was inspired by Peach Fuzz, which is a Pantone of the year of 2024. So I think they did a really good job. So I'm excited to continue using it. Again, I did not do a dedicated video for this palette, but I am sharing more looks with you in my Instagram. This next palette is considerably new to my collection again, but I've already created so many looks with this because I can't keep my hands off of it. This is a formula that I'm already familiar with, but this is a second palette from the brand that I own in my collection now. This is Geods from What's Up Beauty. I just love this color story. The formula is just so easy to work with. I do like the matte formula here. It's pigmented, but yet it's more on a thinner side. So if you want to do a little bit lighter look, you can just shear those mattes out. And I really appreciate this about this formula that What's Up Beauty has in their eyeshadow palettes. But the shimmers are just so beautiful. They're thin, but they give you like that ethereal effect. They pick up beautifully on light. They glimmer on light. Just a formula that I'm comfortable wearing from day to night. A lot of times this is what happens in summer when you just wear your makeup during the day and then something comes up and you just want to go out right after and you don't want to redo your makeup. So this is the palette that I definitely want to keep around. It has just like a beautiful variety of shimmers here that changes your look basically. So you have your neutral base, but then you have like all these different shimmers that just give you an effect of a different look. And that's what I appreciate about this palette. And I also really love that all the pans here are magnetic because I do have some traveling trips coming up in the next few months, and I'm very excited to definitely bring some of these shades with me. So the next palette that I am going to keep in my summer wardrobe / fall wardrobe is Alice in Wonderland from Sigma Beauty. This is considerably a new palette to me. I got it at the end of 2023. This is such a fun color story. I've used this palette in one of my videos on camera so you can see how the look came together. I just really like Sigma eyeshadow palette formula. It's very easy to work with, and this palette definitely gives you a color story that's versatile. You can create completely different looks from each other. There's some warmness going on, there's some pinkish shades, there's just this beautiful area right here where you can create some really like beach inspired looks. So I'm excited to keep this palette around. Then I selected another Sigma palette, the Ambience palette. This is more of a neutral color story. It definitely gives you like a variety of warm shades. This is the palette that I thought of right away when the Natasha Denona gold palette was launched, and that's why I skipped on it. Do not have any regrets not picking up that palette, even though I know it's Natasha Denona formula that I really love, but I also love my Sigma eyeshadow palette formula. This is just a palette that screams like summer, vacation, bronzy, goddess moment. So this is just something that I enjoy and naturally gravitate toward. So I thought I would keep this palette around for this season. Another palette that I pulled out is one of my favorite brands in my collection, Nabla Cutie Palette Coral. This palette was unfortunately discontinued. What a shame, because this is such a perfect like spring and summer color story. I just love me a good coral moment. I also love that there are neutral shades here. These two shimmers are just absolutely mesmerizing. They give you a wet lid effect, like very glossy, very shiny effect that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite shimmer formulas. This is a very compact and curated color story, but I just really love the looks that come out of it. So perfect for summer. Right, another very much favorite palette, not by all means a new eyeshadow palette to the makeup world or to me. I picked this palette up when the palette was launched. This is LOVEFEST from HUDA Beauty. I just love this color story with my whole existence. I love coral shades, period. Maybe some shades that lean a little bit orange or some shades that lean a little bit more pink. I just love the range of like all the coral shades and orangey shades, even though you already know that I am not a huge fan of purple colors. But for some reason, this color combination is just so absolutely stunning. I did a dedicated video on this palette when it was launched, but I also do have content where you can see the looks that I created with this palette on my Instagram. The next palette that I'm excited to pull out is something that's considerably a new launch, the palette that just feels so comfortable for me and so cozy. It's Me in a Palette. Abu Dhabi Zayed from Nomad. This is one of their most recent launches. These colors are just so flattering, and this transition shade is just super flattering. It has a little bit of like peachy rosy undertone. So beautiful on skin. I honestly want to use this palette every single day, but I have other palettes to love, but this I'm keeping very, very close to me this season. Another palette that I thought I would pull out this season because I think it's just a perfect timing for it, the bronze palette from Natasha Denona. It's a beautiful warm tone palette. There's not much lightness in this palette. It goes from like mid-tone to deeper tones here, and I feel like the only time that I can use this palette really is in summer when I'm also tanned. I just feel like these tones look the best on me when I am a little bit more tanned or a lot more tanned. So I think this is the right time of the year, so I'm gonna keep this palette around. Another palette that I pulled out right away as soon as I started building my summer stash is the palette that I've spoke so highly about to you guys when I got it. This is the Nubian Earth from Juvia's Place. This has a really nice range from lighter to darker shades. The matte formula is really nice and user-friendly. If you haven't had a Juvia's Place eyeshadow palette for a long time, since like their original palettes, this is not the same formula. They've done a different formula. It's still pigmented and easy to work with, but it's much thinner. I find it easier to work with than the very original like thicker formula that they used to have, and the shimmers are so beautiful. I do have a real tutorial on my Instagram with this palette as well. This palette has different shimmer formulas as well. This shimmer is just mesmerizing. It almost gives a holographic effect. Also, I feel like the undertones of the matte shades, they pull a little bit olive, like almost like a yellowish olive. I don't really have palettes like this in my collection. This is a very unique palette to me. Another palette that I pulled out into my stash this time is In the Springs from ColourPop. This is a super summery palette. It was launched a few years ago in summer, and I just love all these colors. I love all these like warm neutrals and some of these like teals and blues. I like this color story. It just speaks to me. This shade has a white base and it just gives you like the full opacity. Again, you can see the looks on my Instagram if you would like. This is definitely a very summery palette for me, and I haven't reached for this palette in a while, since last year to be exact, and I just want to retest it more so because I know that ColourPop shades sometimes change their texture as the time passes. Even though I love the color story and I just want to reach for this specific palette, but I also want to retest the formula, just make sure it's still in a good condition. So I also want to do honorable mentions. This palette is just kind of like a given to me. They're not only here in summer or fall, they're just here pretty much the entire year because I just love this color story so much. It's one of my favorite color stories ever made. Here are the two palettes. We have the YUCCA from Natasha Denona and Wildwood from Alter Ego. This color story is just me in a palette. I love every single thing about these palettes. I am just naturally reaching for these palettes. I just love these two so much. Both palettes have removable pans in them. They're very travel friendly. These palettes just live here on my desk regardless of what season. So I also have these four palettes here because they are my companion palettes and they are more than perfect for the warmer season. They definitely do have color stories that you can create full looks with, but to me they're more of a companion palette, and I just pulled them out specifically in summer. The first one is Desert Lights palette. This is not necessarily a companion palette for summer season only because it definitely has some like a really nice berry tones that would be perfect for fall and winter and even spring, and have some of the shades that are rosy that a lot of people like to use in spring as well. But some of the shades, like especially these two shades, they are more on like a peachy gold side, and I really love them in summer season. And this formula from Flower and Beauty is just spectacular. Another palette that I love as my companion palette is Lost in Los Angeles from BH Cosmetics. Super beautiful bright color story. In the past I did create some full looks out of this palette, but It's more of a companion palette for me. The shimmer formula is just so pretty, and I really love all these like peachy tones here. Also, this white shade is very opaque. I don't think I do own another white shade in my entire collection, but this one. And another palette that of course had to come back to my vanity during the summer is the Garden by Juvia's. You know how much I love this palette, especially for the shimmers. They are just simply spectacular. They're just such a high quality. If you follow my channel this time last year, you know I zhushed through your ears about this palette because these shimmers are, they could be toppers, but they also could be build up. I just enjoy layering them on top of whatever else I have going on, and it just gives you the most beautiful like wet effect. These are just spectacular. That's all I'm gonna say. I am super excited to use this palette again. And then another companion palette is Fade into Hue from ColourPop. This is just your rainbow palette. This is definitely a very companion palette for me because it's just very primary bright colors here that I typically do not use unless it's a summer look or a Halloween look. But yeah, I also pulled this palette out. So these are all the palettes that I wanted to share with you today. I know it's a lot. I will try to link all these palettes what I can if they're still available. So I would love to hear from you which eyeshadow palettes you are excited to use this summer, what's in your collection, and share with me in the comment section below. Let me know if you own any of these palettes that I've talked about today, but I really enjoy my stash. Of course, there are so many other warm tone palettes or palettes that I could potentially use in summer in my collection, but my collection is very extended and I have to give a fair shot to all my palettes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do have any questions, comments, please leave them in the comment section below this video. I would love to chat with you there. If you enjoyed this video, give this a big thumb up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.